Most sports animes are all about teamwork is teamwork and the power of friendship to win. Nah, not Block. In Block, you have to think, screw the team, I am the team. The mindset of an egoist. That's the reason Block was made, to create the world's greatest striker as the biggest egoist. But I decided to take a step back and look at the current cast to see who in Block has the biggest ego. Now, initially when you think of a person with a massive ego, you think of a cocky, dumb guy who thinks he's much better than everyone. But in Block, and even the real world, the word ego has a much deeper meaning. In 1923, Austrian neurologist Sigmund Freud came out with his famous book, The Ego and the Id, a psychoanalysis of the human mind that broke down a theory of how the human mind is built. He theorized the mind was broken down into two main parts, the id and the ego. Firstly, the id, it's driven by the pleasure principle, seeking immediate gratification. It's impulsive and irrational, focusing solely on fulfilling its needs without considering consequences or reality. Then comes the ego. The ego operates on the reality principle and develops as the individual grows. It's a person's sense of self, their feelings of importance, and a division of the psyche. Now that we actually know the proper definition behind the word ego, we can analyze the Block cast to find out who actually has the strongest ego. And yeah, with all that out of the way, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy my video at any point, and let's hop into it. But before we hop into the video, I have a special message from our sponsor today, Betterhelp. In this current technological era, we live in a world that is more interconnected than ever, but unfortunately, people seem to feel more alone now than ever before. Loneliness, anxiety, wars, disease, inflation, and the banning of TikTok. But that's where Betterhelp comes in to save the day. Betterhelp is an online therapy website with over 8,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot. Betterhelp is fully online, making therapy more comfortable and convenient for all. Quickly fill out a questionnaire and get matched with the right therapist for you. They have over 30,000 licensed professionals with a wide range of specialties and backgrounds. Worst comes to worst, you can easily change your therapist for no extra charge. And everyone, no matter who they are, has their issues. So why not talk it out with a licensed professional that can vastly improve your life? Look at all these satisfied customers who say Betterhelp has made their life much better. So, what are you waiting for? Start the new year right by trying Betterhelp. You can click the link in the description below or go to betterhelp.com/SavageToby and get 10% off your first month of therapy. So, once again, thanks for Betterhelp for sponsoring this video, and let's hop into it. Firstly, let's go through the characters that actually just have no chance of winning this competition. Nanase is a country bumpkin trash can who's literally fine being Rin's slave as long as he can make it to the next round of Block. Raichi also has no business winning this. He does have some ego to an extent, as he calls his playstyle sexy and he doesn't irrationally believe he's better than anyone, but he doesn't really display any real sense of self when playing. Next is my favorite femboy, Hiyori. Hiyori has unlocked a bit of ego towards the end of the Ubers match, but before this match he didn't even want to play soccer anymore and was going to quit, so obviously he's out. Next we have Zantetsu, and unironically he actually does have some decent sense of self and a decent ego. In the episode Nage manga, we actually see his character get expanded on, with him declaring he'll be the world's most esteemed moron, and that's his real truth. Even with this, there was no universe in which Zantetsu won. Tokumitsu is another obvious no. Bro has almost negative ego. He's scared of everything and hasn't touched the ball since season 1. Gagamaru doesn't really even seem that interested in being in Block half the time. He looks like he'd rather be out wrestling bears or something. Kurona is just an Isagi minion. Karasu doesn't seem to have much ego or sense of self at all. Sendo falls more into the id category than ego. Remember, the id is more irrational thoughts, and bro unironically thinks Kaiser is his rival, so he's beyond lost in the sauce. Nico is just Walmart Isagi. Otoya only really cares about getting his member wet. Ryu actually does have some sense of self in the way he views everything on a scale of glam or not, but even with that, he doesn't compete with the top tiers. And finally, with IQ, in the U20 game, the way he views himself as the final wall Block must overcome to change Japanese soccer was cool, but like, let's be real, he's not an egoist. If he was, he would have told his coach to unalive himself and continue his journey as a striker. Now, we finally entered the cast that actually has some argument for being the greatest egoist here. The people left on the list are Ryo Mikage, Nagi Seishiro, Yukimiya Kenyu, Kunigami Rensuke, Chigiri Hyoma, Bachira Megaru, Ryushi Shido, Shoei Barou, Isagi Richi, and finally, Itoshi Rin. Out of all these characters, I'm putting Nagi dead last in 10th. Nagi has negative ego for the majority of his Block career, but the reason I'm even talking about him is because he has some flashes of strong ego throughout certain points of the story, especially in episode Nagi. For example, in the Bastard Manshine game, when he's motivated to go against Isagi, he actually becomes a monster. Nagi's biggest problem is once he beats Isagi, his motivation and ego seems to fade away in that moment. Anyone with such a weak ego could never win on this list. The next person who definitely isn't winning is Kunigami. After analyzing how he acts, I would definitely classify his mental state as leaning much more towards the id than the ego. Once again, the id is the more irrational side of the mind, looking for instant gratification. The way he tries to make solo plays, even though he's clearly not good enough, is just pure irrational behavior, unfitting of a true ego. And on top of that, he's literally going through experiments where the goal is for him to fully erase his ego. The goal of Kunigami is to act as a catalyst to create the world's best striker. He's become fully tame and he must become selfless. Although I will give him some credit, as during the PXG Bastard game, he does have some flashes of ego coming back, like when he passed to Isagi or when he started playing with peak performance because he wanted revenge on Shido. Overall though, he just can't be any higher than this. The next person I feel has no chance of winning is Ryo. Ryo's dream and reason for playing soccer is to make Nagi the best player in the world whilst winning the World Cup. Ryo is a fairly rational person most of the time. His main problem is Nagi himself. His ego in the beginning of the Enyo arc was to become a player strong enough who could play without relying on anyone. Ryo's issue though is his ego wasn't sturdy enough to withstand the storm that is Nagi. The second Nagi came crawling back to Ryo, he folded under almost no pressure and started pandering towards his id and not his ego. The id once again is the part of your brain that desires instant gratification. Instead of working towards his real goal and ego, he'd rather get the instant gratification of playing with Nagi, his boyfriend. This causes Ryo and Nagi's ego to diminish and cause their downfall throughout the arc. Although we do see this glorious panel of Nagi realizing they do need to change in order to evolve to the next step. So I am very excited and curious to see the newly awakened Nagi and Ryo in the next arc. That's if Ryo's bid doesn't go under 23, that is. We are now at our final 7. 7th goes to Yukimiya. At a young age, he was diagnosed with an eye disease that makes his vision blurry and spotty the more tired he gets. His doctor told him it would be really difficult to continue down his path to being a professional athlete. Even with this news, he continued to pursue his dreams to the top. Unfortunately, in the Bastard Manshine game, Yukimiya, much like other characters on this list, goes full delusional and lets this id fully take over his body. The score is 2-2, and Isagi, after absolutely shitting on Chris Prince, finally gets the ball. Out of nowhere, Yukimiya steals the ball from Isagi, stating, "I don't have any time." Now, truthfully, this move doesn't deduct any points from him, as Isagi and Kaiser have done this multiple times. The problem is what he does after. He tries to solo dribble through their entire team and make a full solo play to end the game. His shot obviously gets blocked, and even ego states that he basically had zero chance of scoring a goal. And this is a super important scene to pay attention to that basically goes over Sigmund Freud's theory that I've been referencing in this video. His self-esteem is too high, but he's a striker, of course he's confident. There's a difference between confidence and zealotry. What that idiot is doing is hopelessly trying to believe in a story where he is the hero. Success never comes to those who are drunk on their own stories. Or in other words, there's a difference between the rational ego and the irrational id, which consumed Yukimiya in this moment. Now after this match, he actually puts a lid on the id side of himself to actually lock in. But overall, his sense of self and ego isn't developed enough to be number one. Now for our top 6, I would say most of these characters have strong egos that have rarely, if ever, been shown to waver. Next up in 6th place, I'm giving it to Bachira. Bachira is definitely a free spirit who does whatever feels good to him in the moment. In the very first episode during the tag game, with only seconds left, Bachira steals the ball to go after the strongest, Kira. The only objective in this game is to stay away from the ball, but Bachira's ego didn't care, wanting to face the strongest. We cut to one of the most hype matches in all block, Team Z versus Team V. The score is currently 3-0. Everyone on Team Z has lost all faith, thinking there's nothing they can do, and all their dreams are coming to an abrupt end. Then, out of nowhere, my glorious goat steps up to the plate. I love it. This is getting fun. Soy Soggy is like, Bachira, we're getting farmed. Wait, Isagi, don't tell me you're scared. Sure, their goals were super special, but the solution is obvious. We need to be super special too. With everyone's motivation bottomed out, Bachira's ego of fighting strong opponents and testing himself causes an awakening within him, giving him the strength to make a solo tear through their entire team, finally giving them their first point. And with that play, it breathed some fire into the team, giving them enough motivation to make a comeback and win the game. The only problem with Bachira is we don't see enough of him in the U20 and NEL arcs. Other than fighting strong opponents, I don't know if he necessarily has the strongest ego compared to the top dogs. I know one mindset he has is wanting the strength to be able to play without relying on anyone or anything. And in the annual arc, we see him evolve his monster to the next step with his Ginga X monster dribble style. Slightly off topic, but Bachira got cucked so hard in the annual arc. He's currently 5th overall on the mid list and is doing his best to carry his team, but holy shit, his team is ass. They've lost every single game in the NEL arc so far. But back to the main point. Bachira is definitely an egoist, but I don't think I could put him any higher on this list because everyone above him has a much stronger sense of self and ego. Maybe Maybe he would be higher if we saw more from him, but unfortunately, he just simply hasn't been given enough screen time. In our 5th place spot, we have the sexy Red Panther himself, Chigiri Hyoma. Chigiri's ego really reawakened because of Isagi in their game against Team W in Season 1. He realizes what brings him the most joy is using his legs to blast past his opposition. It's his true ego. He realizes if he keeps running, there is a chance his leg snaps again, but running full speed past people really is his true sense of self. You see even more in episode Nagi, that in the final 4v4 game, Chigiri is about to chase after some shitter, and as he turns around, Nagi yells, "Stop it, princess, you'll break!" Chigiri tries to tell him to calm down, he can still do a few more sprints. Nagi's like, "You can't be serious, it's really gonna break." "What do you say, Nagi? My leg or your dream? Which is more important? You can't survive here unless you're living for your own ego. That's what block is. I don't mind breaking if it's for the sake of my dream." And yeah, he puts this shit perfectly. Now you may think Chigiri is being very irrational here, pushing himself to the near point of breaking, therefore it being more id than ego, but that's just not true. Chigiri fully states that he's aware of the risk with his leg, he just doesn't care, as he will ride his dream as long as possible. We finally cut to the annual arc and Chris Prince asks Chigiri to tell him his ideal version of himself. "I don't want to pass. I'll use these legs to break past the defense." Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call true ego. Chigiri has a strong sense of self in pushing his dream to the absolute limit, even knowing there's a chance he can lose it all any given moment. He's fully aware of the danger, so this isn't a stubborn, irrational side, it's full ego. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the top 4, Itoshi Rin, Isagi Uichi, Shohei Barou, and finally, Ryusuke Shido. Now, funnily enough, I didn't plan for this, but our 4 final players with the strongest egos also happen to be the top 4 of the bids list currently for the annual arc, which should at least help solidify the fact that the way to win in block is by having the most developed ego. In 4th place, I'm giving it to Ryusuke Shido. Now, Shido is kind of hard because on first look, before doing much research, I was assuming he had more of an id brain than an ego, but the more I looked at it, he's actually more ego than I thought. Once again, it is the more irrational side of the consciousness that tries to get instant gratification. On one hand, he does run past everyone like a wild monkey, definitely not the most rational playstyle. He also does seem to play for instant gratification, the way he randomly rushes in to steal the ball, even from his own teammates. The way he plays without thinking would seem irrational, but it succeeds more often than it fails, so is it really irrational? Truthfully, Shido was the hardest person for me to put an analysis on. In the U20 game, he does actually explain his ego in pretty decent detail. Passing, tactics, will this make us win? Will that make us win? You guys are so lame. Soccer isn't a sport. How many times do I have to say it before you get it? It's just pure existence for me. All humans exist to leave behind a record of their existence. The very act of leaving behind one's genes is the basic programming given to all living things. Connecting with people, hurting people, remaining in someone's memories, they're all the same. Creating something, aspiring to be someone, and of course, leaving behind descendants are all acts of carving proof of your life into the world. And for me, that just happens to be soccer. So like, he does have a strong sense of self. He plays because he wants to leave behind proof of his existence. But like I said, he is also irrational and wants short-term gratification, so he definitely has some id in him. Shido's weird because most people either have a strong id and a weak ego, or a weak id and a strong ego. But Shido seems to have a strong id and a strong ego and sense of self. It's very odd, truthfully. But I think if we get more backstory on Shido or focus on him, we can give a more precise ranking to his psyche, but as of right now, I think 4th is a decent spot for him. When we first meet Barou, he views himself as the king of the field. No one has ever managed to put him in his place. That is, until Goat Isagi humbled him. In the 3v3 game, Isagi nearly broke Barou, and right before Barou gave the final pass to Isagi, his future flashed before his eyes. He sees what will become if he passes to Isagi, and trusting to the goal to them might indeed salvage me from the sense of defeat. But that's just escapism for those with broken dreams who can't bear to deny the lives they've led so far. That's right. It's nothing but a loser's excuse. Bro sees the future where he's a washed up alcoholic adult watching Isagi win in the future, and he absolutely refuses to live in a future like that. In this moment, he awakens, scoring the final goal himself as the king. This was the first time in his life he was completely beaten, giving him a new perspective on his ego. We can even tell he matures when we cut to the later matches in the episode Nagi manga. During the Chigiri section, I mentioned this panel where Chigiri tells Nagi he doesn't mind breaking for the sake of his dream. The next page, Barou hits them with the cold water. You guys are too naive. Dreams this, no regrets that. If that was enough to win, I'd be king of the world already, dumbass. Just try to remember, what are we exactly? We're just losers who happen to team up. It sucks ass, but this is our reality. So get rid of your aesthetics and rationally devote all of our abilities towards winning, even if it's uncool. Hopes and dreams aren't enough for real motivation. We need to crush the worst future in which we lose here. So turn that despair into energy. Holy my goat. What a cold panel. And on top of that, this shows massive growth from the previous matches. Some people may argue he's pushing his true desires out of the way, which isn't the path of a true egoist, but I believe that's just a wrong way of looking at it. Continuing to play however you want, blindly hoping that your hopes and dreams bring you the win, is the inside of your brain talking. What Barou proposes is a rational way to win. Being able to adapt your current situation and shift your beliefs to get to your ultimate goal in the end is the sign of a true egoist. Kind of like how Isagi is willing to sell his soul and work with Kaiser for the greater goal in the future of winning. We cut to the annual arc, and after hearing about Snuffy's work placed out, Barou just ain't messing with it. Snuffy goes to talk to Barou. Based on the data, your abilities make you the one in this team most suited to be the strongest striker. So please just try going along with my boring philosophy, even if it's just to humor me. Once again, Barou does not care. Soccer is not work to me. It's a means to become a king. I'm going to conquer this world in my own way. If you want to use me, then you better adapt to me, you 2-bit master. Bro, Barou's aura needs to be studied. Dude's casually shit-talking one of the best pros in the entire world. Snuffy tries to pull on Barou's heartstrings by giving him an emo backstory. He tells Barou about how his best friend unalived himself. After his Giga speech, he's fairly confident Barou will work with him because most people would bend the knee after this conversation. What do you think about becoming my successor as the king of Ubers? Fuck no. I don't need a crown given to me, and I don't want to end up as an adult who's scared of the future like you are. Bro, Barou's aura once again is skyrocketing. He wants to be king of the world, but he will do it his own way. He will not bend the knee to anyone and will not accept any handouts. Eventually, after talking with some people, he decides to give Snuffy's ideas a try, but not as a successor, but as a striker who will surpass him. And with that, Barou built a super team around him to lift him up. We cut to the game, and after trying to listen to some of Snuffy's strats, Isagi comes sliding in to block a shot. Ubers is such a mindless team that moves according to what Snuffy has deemed correct. How could someone so domesticated be the world's best striker? You've become totally boring, Barou. And in that moment, as he slides in, Barou stops. Hey Snuffy, if I had shot according to design, my shot would have been blocked 4 times. That's how many times Isagi stopped my shot. So I'm submitting my resignation due to unfair labor practices. King Barou's ego isn't dead yet. Barou has another awakening after realizing this team's playstyle just doesn't have enough despair for him to thrive in, and is going back to his original ego of becoming the best his own way. Barou completely usurps the team. If you fail, it'll just be the master's fault. I can't live for that kind of guaranteed future. Only glory with the risk of despair is enough to make my soul tremble. I won't live for a future someone else has decided for me. And if the day comes where I can't be the #1 king in the world, I'd rather go out in a blaze of glory. And with that, the hero was born. Barou has an extreme hunger to be the best in the world and rarely budges for anyone. Next, in second place, I'm giving it to my glorious, ambidextrous, metavision, two-gun volley king. As much as I want Isagi to win every competition ever, he sadly is not winning this. Let's go over all of Isagi's egotistical feats starting from the beginning. The very first thing to block is Isagi in a match that determines if his team will go to nationals or not. He finally is in front of the goal box, and to his right, his teammate calls out for him, asking for the final pass. Isagi realizes, oh yeah, soccer is a sport played by 11 people, so I should pass. And then in that moment, his dreams were crushed. He's out in the field screaming, scaring off the children. What would have been if I had taken the shot myself at that moment? He gets the invitation to block and starts listening to Ego's Giga speech. Just imagine it. You're in the World Cup final. It's the last play. With the pass from your teammate, you're through the defense. It's just you against the goalkeeper. 6 meters to your right is your teammate. If you pass, you're guaranteed to score a goal. In a moment where the entire nation's hopes and championship are riding you, only an insane egoist can take that shot without hesitation. Almost an exact mirrored situation up to the game Isagi just lost. And in this moment, the egoist known as Isagi was born. As the first person to run through these doors, our story begins. One of my favorite moments, when the U20 arc concludes, they ask him what's next for him. He states, Blue Lock is going to win the U20 World Cup. No, that's not it. I will lead Japan to a U20 World Cup victory. That's the level of ego we need from someone planning on being the best player in the world. After becoming one of the biggest Giga Chads throughout the show, he has an interview with a reporter from the Manshine game. So about the comments from Bastard Munich scouts, I want to use him as a new type of midfielder, one that excels at both offense and defense. Those are the sort of things they've said. But what do you think? I'm grateful for the assessment, but I want to live as a striker. Even if others want me to make passes and combination plays, I want to be a forward who ultimately scores goals. I want to win with my own goals. I have no intention of giving up that egotism. My goat making it what he wants known. He has plenty of other egoist moments I could mention, but I want to skip to the PXG game because that's where it gets the most interesting for me. Cut into chapter 274. Rin absolutely violates my goat Isagi in one of the coldest panels in the entire show. Come at me, ready to die. Come kill me. If your life is that tepid, then you're a failure of a rival. Bro, when I first read this, my jaw was to the floor. Isagi gets up. Readiness to die? Shut up. I have that too, you know. I've lost again and again. Died and been reborn. I'm the adaptability genius. Isagi Yuichi. My goat! Rin's about to shoot and Isagi comes flying in. Ow! Put my life on the line. I'll die with you. Isagi risks his own safety to ram into Rin in order to stop him from scoring. Unfortunately for Isagi, Rin makes a shot. Dude starts shit-talking Isagi, and it's now when Isagi's true ego is erupting. Shut up, you arrogant prick. I swear on this last goal, I will devour you back. Isagi gets fired up, but unfortunately, after having the sheer power of world-class talent shoved in his face, he loses confidence. I want to beat Rin. I want to be the best in the world, but I can't imagine myself winning.
Oh my god, my Shayla. My Shayla.
Skip a few chapters and Isagi realizes the missing piece he needs to propel himself to the top tier of strength is dropping his fixations. The rivalry I feel towards Rin, my malice towards Kaiser, and my admiration for Noah. I've dropped those, so now what's left for me? We see the puzzle pieces fly by, flashing all the way back to the start. What does Isagi Yuichi truly desire at the end of the day? What's his true ego? I wanted to win. At last we see his true ego. Yes, he wants to be the best in the world. Yes, he wants to be a star striker. Yes, he would like to win with his goals, but at the end of the day, he truly just desires victory. Using his new mindset, he uses himself as a pawn to outwit Rin in his destroyer mode, saving the team. I figured my fleeting personal feelings don't really matter. I felt like I'll sell my soul to achieve victory. After this glorious feat, he slaps Rin, Loki, and no with his Schmeat, asserting utter dominance. And then finally, his greatest move, serving his insatiable hunger to win. Abandon all pride and useless sentiment. If I use myself as a tool, I can defeat Rin. Kaiser, let's team up. In this moment, Isagi's true ego took the world by storm. Dude was willing to throw away all pride and hatred towards his rival and realized this was the best move for achieving victory. Yeah, no questions asked. Isagi is top 3. But you may be asking yourself, what could be a stronger ego than selling your own soul? Well, literally his first showing in the game, he explains that soccer isn't a sport to him. It's life or death. During the final match in Season 1, he beats Isagi with a score of 5-4 by pure luck in the last play. In the last play, Isagi outreads Rin to predict Bachira's shot, but after blocking it, the ball just happens to land at Rin's feet, giving him the win. Rin starts molding, saying it's the first time he's suffered defeat since he's joined Block. Yuichi Isagi, you will watch me become the best in the world at my side. We then learn Rin's current motivation for playing soccer: to absolutely destroy and obliterate his older brother Itoshi Sai. The moment of truth has come in the U20 match. This is Rin's chance to utterly destroy his brother. At the 11th hour, Rin's destroyer mode state activates for the first time. Little brother of a genius, partner, rival, stop violating me with your cheap, easy values. I'm not some object in your lives. I'm me. I'm the egoist. Itoshi Rin. This is where shit really hits the fan. These two have one of the most generational 1v1s in all of soccer history. Sai used one of his best moves, and then finally in this moment, our GOAT Rin stops it. But just like in Season 1, the ball randomly lands at the feet of our protagonist, and the rest is history. This was the moment where we saw a flash of Rin's true ego, something so powerful he himself doesn't even fully understand it yet. Cut into the NEO arc, Rin's team is currently down 2-1. Bastard is 1 goal off winning it all. The pressure Isagi is putting on Rin is exactly what he needs to draw his destroyer state. I leveled up to make it this far, but that was nothing more than technique. What I was missing was a mental pressure. I wanted someone badass to make me suffer, someone strong and honest to stand in my way, an absolute egotist. This destructive impulse is a trigger on my heart. Rin in this state has a flashback to his childhood, re-remembering his true ego. We see him watching some cartoon where the hero is fighting the villain in an all-out war. Sai says that all his friends are into it and they think the hero's so cool. I don't care about that. I like the ultimate monster. Just look. He risks his own life fighting to defeat someone stronger than him. Even when his body is full of holes or when he blows himself up, he keeps fighting to defeat the hero. That's super cool. So I want to be like that someday. Even if I get all beat up, I want to fight someone amazing, destroy them, and die.
Is this nigga serious?
At this moment, it clicks for him. His ego isn't just destructive urges, it's life-risking destruction. Putting your own life on the line for what you want. All that's left from me is to set my life ablaze in this moment and bring forth the courage to die. Truly an insane mindset for anyone to have doing anything, much less soccer. Rin is truly a madman. We see him absolutely dismantle the enemy team, making his way to the goal box. Last second, he stops. Everyone's confused. He could have scored, so why? Even if I scored now, it wouldn't help me evolve, right? Burning up my life means finding the strongest enemy and smashing my strongest self against them. This is literally the final match in the NEL arc. The current score is 2-1. First team to 3 wins. Rin literally has a chance to score, but his ego stops him, knowing it wouldn't help him get to the next stage. Haven't you bastards ever risked your life for soccer? Haven't you ever lived by offering up everything? Offer up your life and give it to me. What an absolute monster. Cutting back to that crash shot I mentioned earlier, him and Isagi put their lives on the line, smashing into each other, but it wasn't enough to stop Rin at that point. That monster made a free kick in mid-air? What the hell? My mind is blown. This feels fucking incredible. Yeah, honestly, after reviewing all the footage, I think Rin wins strongest egoist. Rin views soccer as a game of life and death. What gets him most fired up is the feeling of putting his very life and being on the line. To put this into perspective, in 5th place we have Chigiri risking his leg for the sake of his dream, versus Rin in 1st place risking his entire existence in life. What could be a stronger sense of self than life and death? So yeah, this concludes the video. Good job, Rin. You have the strongest ego in all of Block. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, as it helps out a lot. And once again, thanks to Betterhelp for sponsoring this video. And yeah, with all that out of the way, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.